Now, look, the only thing original about last night's State of Origin was the shameful score. In 2 contests, 76 points to New South Wales, 6 to Queensland. It was a mess for Queensland from well before kick-off. First, the brilliant young 18-year-old Reece Walsh was injured. Then the 21-year-old Ronaldo Mulitalo was picked for Queensland, having played previously for them in under-18s and Queensland under-20 sides. But then an anonymous person alerted the Rugby League on Saturday afternoon that Mulitalo came to Australia at age 14, and apparently to be eligible for the State of Origin, you need to have been in Australia before you were 13. So he was ruled out, and the kid was obviously shattered, and the whole Queensland Rugby League have some soul-searching to do. The first 2 tries came from surrendering the football, one from a strip and a tackle, and the other handing the ball to Latrell Mitchell in an intercept, 12-0. 2 games, 76-6. Only the 3rd time in Origin history that Queensland's been held scoreless. As one clever comment was made today, there's only one thing worse than a lockdown, and that's a meltdown. Rarely did Queensland look like scoring. But they have something to be proud of. There's a horse from Toowoomba by the name of Incentivise. Only a matter of weeks ago, it came second last in a maiden handicap in Toowoomba. It has now strung together 6 successive wins, including in a hot field in the Tattersalls Cup at Eagle Farm on Saturday. In its last 3 wins, it's won by 9 lengths, 9.5 lengths, and then 12 lengths. It's now favourite for the Caulfield and Melbourne Cups. Incentivise is going to Melbourne to be trained by Peter Moody. And just on racing, Chris Waller is becoming an absolute phenomenon. He's just trained 150 city winners for a record 7th time. Only 3 other trainers have done that. Tommy Smith, his daughter Gay Waterhouse, and John Hawkes. But Waller has trained more winners than the next 3 on the Trainers' Premiership table put together, heading for his 11th successive Sydney Premiership. I suppose a long way to go to match the world record set by the great TJ Smith, 33 in a row. But who knows? The very modest Chris Waller is only 48, but it's a phenomenal achievement to date. Now, with all this lockdown nonsense, the Wallabies v France test on Saturday week will now go to Suncorp Stadium. As compensation, Sydney will host the Springboks in September. And just on France, what a disgrace in that Tour de France on Saturday. A woman held up a banner and directed it straight at the television cameras with her back turned on the speeding cyclists. The German rider brushed past her and was knocked off balance, causing a horrifying domino effect, ending in a tangle of bikes and bodies. Several people were hurt, including spectators. The tour director said he'd sue the woman. Good luck. She most probably doesn't have more than 2 bob. And the great tennis championship Wimbledon starts tonight. It won't be the same. Rafa has bypassed it because it was too close after the French championships. He'll ready himself for the US Open. The 2 greats, Roger Federer and Serena Williams, most probably can't last the 2 weeks against an ever-increasing number of outstanding young players. Novak Djokovic looms, perhaps ready to prove himself the greatest player of all time. And in the women, the quiet and uncelebrated girl from Ipswich, Ashley Barty, is the #1 seed in the women's singles. But I suspect at the end of the 2 weeks, we may well see 2 winners who've never raised the trophy before.